You're watching Nutty Nerd TV. I'm Greg Brown. So this week I'm going to introduce you to a pretty cool program I use quite a bit. It's called MPEG Streamclip. It's free for both the Mac and the PC. You just simply have to go out to the website and go download it. And essentially what this software does is it converts video formats for you. So for example, I'm recording this episode of Nutty Nerd TV with my JVC camera, and JVC records, at least this camera records in its own proprietary TOD format. Well, I do all my editing on a Mac and on Final Cut Pro, and this TOD format isn't really compatible for both. So what I need to do is I need to convert that TOD format to another format that is more native to Final Cut Pro. And so MPEG Streamclip can do that for me, and it's really easy to use. I'm sure you're probably in the same situation. You may not be using a Mac, or you may not be using Final Cut Pro. You may be using something else, such as Pinnacle, or you might be using iMovie on a Mac. And so if you're taking your footage that you capture from your camera, you may want to export it out into a different format that's more native. So anyway, this software, MPEG Streamclip, is really easy to use, and I want to show you how you can use it. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we dive into MPEG Streamclip, I wanted to explain some stuff before we actually get started to help you understand some things if you're not so familiar with video. But understand that this can be a very confusing topic, and I'm aware of that. So what I want to do is just kind of keep everything high level and as simple as possible. So there's a difference between file format and encoding. I think a lot of people get this mixed up and they don't quite understand it. So let me try to explain this a little bit. So a file format is the actual file that you're going to save as your output file on your computer. So whether that be QuickTime, or if it be AVI or MPEG-4 or Flash, this is the actual file that's going to be saved on your computer. So the question is, well, how do I decide what kind of file format do I want to save it as? Well, you're going to have to then ask yourself, well, what's it going to be used for? Am I going to play this video file on my iPod? Then perhaps I want to save it as an MP4 or a movie. Do I want to embed this file in a website? Well, I may want to save it as a Flash file, or I may want to save it as an AVI file if it's going to be something intended more for Windows, or I want to open it up in the Windows Media Player or whatever. So that's going to be the file format. The encoding is a different piece of it. That is where you're going to decide, okay, I want to be able to compress this video or encode it so that it can play either in QuickTime or in Flash or whatever. Now, there's a whole list of types of codecs that are out there. There's H.264, WMV, which is the two that I have listed here. There's also a lot more. But the one that we're going to be working with is H.264. So how do you decide what type of codec you're going to be using? Well, you're going to have to decide what type of quality video do you want. Obviously, the more quality the video it is, the bigger the video size is going to be. So you're going to want to choose a codec that's going to give you the best compression that delivers you the best quality at the smallest actual size, file size as possible. So that's how you decide basically what a codec is, and just to kind of keep that as simple as possible. There's a lot of other things about codec that we can go into, but I just want to kind of keep it high level. So essentially that's a codec. So if you think about it, the file format may be saved as a QuickTime file, right? So it might have a .mov extension, but it's going to be encoded with .h.264 compression. So at a high level, that's basically what this is all about. So you're going to decide, obviously, what type of file format you want to save it as, and then the different type of codec. And I'm going to show you that here in a minute. I have this file on my desktop called mov019.tod. This is the video file that came from my JVC camera. You can see it's in its TOD format. And what I need to do is I need to convert that so that I can work with it in my post-editing software. So the first thing I want to do is I want to launch MPEG Streamclip, and then it's going to bring up this window here. And all I need to do is just simply grab it and then drop it into the window here. And then it's going to process. And then once it comes up, then I can go in and select the file format, what I want to save it as. So in this case right here, I want to save it as a QuickTime file. And then you can see the compression. This is where you have all the different codecs. So you may want to save it in an H.264. For me, because I use Final Cut Pro, I typically use the Apple Intermediate codec. So I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to select the quality. So in this case, I bring it up to 100%. A lot of this other stuff I really don't change. I mean, the frame size, I keep that the full size. I don't change the frame rate or the progressive stuff, the field dominance or any of that stuff. So what I'm really changing here is the compression or selecting my codec. I'm usually checking to make sure my frame size is the same, 1920 by 1080. It's a 16:9 aspect ratio, and then that's what's been brought in. And then all this other stuff I typically leave the same. So once that's done, then I can go ahead and select Make Movie, and then I'm going to save it on my desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and select Save right there. In fact, I'm going to put a little extension on it, AIC, and then select Save, and then it's just going to go ahead and go through. You can see it's about 2% completed. It usually takes, depending on the size of the video, 5 or 10 minutes to complete. So rather than torturing you and watching this thing just go to 100%, I'm going to go ahead and let this finish, and then we'll come back. Okay, so you can see that it's done encoding, and then now on the desktop here, I have this MOV019-AIC movie. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and just open this up with QuickTime Player. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then you'll see here, once it launches, it's in full size. So I want to probably have it fit to the screen. And then you can see that this is the full video size. Now I can go ahead and edit this in my post-editing software, which is Final Cut Pro. So anyway, I hope this information has been useful for you. Until next time, we'll see you again on Nutty Nerd TV.